had once been a girl. But now I was something else. The Daleks will destroy the universe. It's only a matter of time.
Hello, I'm Christian Cawley, and that was the first trailer for Doctor Who Infinity, a new Doctor Who game from the producers of Doctor Who Legacy. The first instalment, The Dalek Invasion of Time, is written by George Mann and features art from Mike Collins. Missy actress Michelle Gomez appears, as does Ingrid Oliver, reprising Osgood. And Game of Thrones Lyanna Mormont actress Bella Ramsey also appears as a new villain, Freya. To find out more, I spoke to Susan and Lee Cummings from Tiny Rebel Games. So I'm joined by Susan and Lee Cummings from Tiny Rebel Games.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello there, and you are the minds behind Doctor Who Infinity. And you previously did Doctor Who Legacy.
That's right. Yes, 2013, and still running.
And still running. Now, are the two things running concurrently, or is Legacy going to be retired?
We haven't really decided yet. We continue to support Doctor Who Legacy while we're making Doctor Who Infinity. Obviously, not to the level that we used to, with it being out nearly 5 years now,
sure. And
with us being a small team and so much of it's a really ambitious project. Our new game, much more so even than Legacy was, and so it's pretty time consuming, and it's definitely sapping into the time that we have to support the last game. So
that would suggest maybe. Because I don't know, because I haven't had the chance to play it, unfortunately, although I've seen the graphics, some of the artwork. But that would suggest that this is a different type of game. Is that the case?
It is absolutely a different type of game, yes.
Type. It's incredibly different. It's not a sequel. It's similar, but it's dramatically different. And it's not really a game as much as it's a platform to put a load of new stories out on.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, our what we're attempting is a cross section of what lots of people do really well in the Doctor Who world, and we've tried to marry some of those aesthetic values into this. So obviously, Big Finish is amazing at what they do. The Titan Comics guys do lovely comic books, amazing comic books, and they're all good friends of ours. And so what we're doing here is we're kind of bringing together stuff that those guys do, and also what we did with Doctor Who Legacy with the sort of very accessible puzzle mechanic, and created something new that's kind of a hybrid of lots of things. And so the audio production values are absolutely phenomenal. We're using real actors from the show and really talented voice direction. The stories are all written by Doctor Who writers. The art is all done by tremendously talented comic book people who are already working on Doctor Who, or who are working with Marvel and DC Comics and things like that. And then combining all that with a new way of thinking about gameplay that lets us tie in a puzzle mechanic and let you actually feel like you're playing through the game in a way we weren't able to do with our last game.
Through the story. Everything
is story first this time. Last time, we didn't really have the opportunity to do a lot of story. We didn't have a lot of time before we launched, and the BBC didn't know us, and they really weren't comfortable yet with the idea of us writing Doctor Who stories, which is fair enough. We only had like 6 months to get the initial launch of Doctor Who Legacy out. This time around, all that changed, and Lee created the high levels for 5 stories that went through without much fuss at BBC, and then we brought on
a very talented team of great writers. What a great writing
turn those into amazing stories. They all feel entirely different. Each one has a different doctor. Each one's a different setting, and it's so much diversity.
It's more like trying to do an art exhibit. A game which is beautiful with loads of different artists, where you go and it's like, oh, this story just feels so different because someone else is doing it, and each of the stories is so differently written from these great authors, and all the voices are so different that it feels, while the core gameplay is still a gem mechanic, we've done some really clever stuff to make it feel very different, and all the stories feel very different too in terms of gameplay.
Yeah. So whereas Legacy was a very specific thing. We'd worked on puzzle games before. We'd worked with Steve Faulkner on his follow-up to Puzzle Quest, which is Puzzle Kingdoms. And Puzzle and Dragons was really popular at the time, and we really loved what they added to the genre with a detachable puzzle mechanic. And so and that's where Legacy came out of, was let's take that mechanic and iterate on it and put it
collect characters.
Yeah, it's a collectible, right?
2 times space. This is you start the game and you see the Doctor's desk in his TARDIS, and you see all the different issues of this game, displayed as comic book covers on his table. You can scroll through, you can see them, and you can play parts of them for free and play a big chunk of the first story. And before we try to get money out of you to pay for the rest of each of these stories.
Okay. And you're just paying the same way you would for a comic book. You're paying for a story.
We think that users will so understand this a lot better. The casual gamers who open this understand. In the same way that you buy a story, buy a book, you buy a comic book. I'm purchasing. They can browse through bits of it and then get to terms with the art and the story and things like that before they dive in. So I think it's very accessible and the
payment model makes sense. We were never well suited to the free to play model as much as we tried. We were fair. Probably to a fault. We've put in over 120 hours of free content since Doctor Who Legacy, which is not a very good business model for free to play. I mean, we did fine, but
we don't get that in many premium games, do you? That much?
It was a lot, and you'd still have people thinking because it's free to play that if there was an opportunity to pay, that they should avoid it at all costs. That we were trying to con them. We never were. So it was really hard. This time around, we're like, you know what? We don't want people spending hundreds of dollars on this game, and some people did on Legacy, and it never felt great to see that because that's just starts to feel like addictiveness, in the bad way. And in this time around, it's like, look, all we want to do is sell these stories. We're taking these amazing writers and giving them a platform for telling new adventures, and then we're taking comic book artists, really talented comic book guys who don't even play games or have never even touched. None of these people have ever worked on.
This is probably the interesting thing. Is like there's a team of 26 people on this, and half of them have never maybe even played a game in their life.
And they don't have to, and that's fine.
It's great because they come in it with a very different eye, and it doesn't look like any other video game out there.
So that can translate to the buyer as well. Then you can bring in people who've never played games before.
Absolutely. And our plan, and something we're really pushing on, is that a casual, or sort of our more casual end of our audience that we've had in the past, and we have a very diverse audience on Doctor Who Legacy, the casual guys who sometimes got frustrated with difficulty curves, we're really trying to be mindful of them and make it so that with a little bit of challenge, everyone can play through, and because we want you to experience the story, it's not just about gameplay.
It's also, we've taken away things like countdown timers to stop you from having to rush through these levels. A lot of the levels are now you can make 5 turns. It's like a game of chess more than it's sort of rushing. So even for younger and older gamers who want to just sit there and have a more casual gameplay experience, that's totally possible with this.
Okay. Is this mobile only, or are you going on PC as well?
It's actually being created from the ground up as a PC game,
right?
And we will have mobile versions of it coming out shortly after the PC version. But the focus is really on our launch on Steam.
As mentioned, I've seen the artwork, and it'll be accompanying this podcast, and it appears to be almost all by Mike Collins. Is that right?
This first story.
That's the first story,
is all Mike.
Each story has a single artist. And God bless them for doing so much work.
And a colorist.
And a colorist. But those guys are just, they're workhorses. They're amazing. They create so much amazing looking artwork so quickly. And they're doing so much for us. They are just great.
Mike's fantastic. He does all the storyboarding for the television series, which means I'm splitting my time right now with him, with the brand team who are trying to get the new season done. But so he, and he's like the man when it comes to Daleks, and it's a Dalek story, so he's the perfect fit for that.
Sure.
Chris Carter is doing all the coloring, and I just love the sort of lush, vibrant colors that he's using in the story.
It's such an inventive story, and they're all so inventive. And we're getting, obviously all the rights have to be signed off. We're doing some strange, odd looking, different looking Daleks. Yes. They have to get signed off by the estate.
Yeah. I think I can say that we're actually.
I don't know what we.
I think we're probably early on, like one of few who've been able to create new Daleks in extended canon and have them be approved by the Terra Nation estate. We have two already have been signed off, so we're doing some new things. We've got Roman Daleks, and we have, I have mentioned this already last week in GDC, so I think I can say again, our villain of the story, and she's voiced by the tremendously talented Bella Ramsey, who plays Leanne Mormont in Game of Thrones. She's fabulous. I got to meet her about a month and a half ago, and Scott Hancock did the recording that day with her, and she's lovely. And she plays this girl named Freya, who's grown up on this planet called Frisia, named after her, with her parents, and it's like a science colony, right?
Well, it's one of the bazillion planets out there with nobody's ever been to, and they're scientists, and they go off to this planet to study it, and she grows up there with her parents, and she becomes a little whiz at robotics, and she builds a little army of mining mining robots that she plays with, and then one day, through the Time War, the Daleks turn up. And it goes quite wrong. But she's a little girl forced into a strange situation, and then suddenly, on the other side, she's up against Missy and the Doctor, and it's interesting. It's amazing having Michelle Gomez, voiced up against Freya in the story with Bella.
Yeah, we recorded Michelle in New York a few weeks ago. My old friend Naveed Kansari, who worked with us at Rockstar, he oversaw the cinematics and audio department at Rockstar. He's amazing. He recorded Michelle for us, and she's hilarious in the studio, and she's so talented. And I think we're gonna hopefully get some stuff out there soon for people to hear. But she does a tremendous job of she's telling us it's a flashback, and she's talking about the Doctor, and she imitates his Scottish accent as opposed to hers, and it's hilarious. I mean, I showed the game last week to gaming press, and people just couldn't stop laughing. By the last demo, I still was laughing every time I saw the scenes because she's just so fun.
And Osgood.
We got Osgood. We recorded Ingrid Oliver in the studio. Poor Ingrid, she had to rush across town for our session. We had a bit of a mix-up, but she was wonderful too.
She's amazing. Elaine's amazing.
We're actually planning on using her Osgood in 2 stories. There's one down the road that's already in the works, and
this is one of those things. Like, if you're going to do a story like this, who should Missy be up against or working with that creates some tension? And, the answer is like, Osgood. What if you put those in a room together and London's under attack from Daleks, and the only 2 people stopping that are these 2?
Yeah, there are lots of fun nods for fans, right? Like, putting them up against each other.
Yeah. It's really, everyone involved in this is so hardcore Doctor Who.
Yeah, we've got a whole scene that takes place in Llandaff where Terry Nation lived. And like, we'll actually visit Llandaff.
For Doctor Who.
Llandaff?
Yeah.
I should know how to pronounce that now that I'm living here.
But it's a big story. It's a big, expansive story. It goes all over the place. It's I don't know. It's a big epic.
It's the most epic and vast of the tales that we're telling. The other 4 that are in the works are much more focused on a single location. This is big, all out.
Well, we wanted to start. Like, I grew up with those Dalek invasion of stories and those big Daleks taking place. And when we started writing the story, it was Dalek invasion of Europe, and then one day George turned around and said, "Why don't we make this a bit bigger than that and make it the Dalek invasion of time?" And suddenly, other like Roman Daleks, started popping up, and it got very crazy and really wonderful.
Yeah,
that's George Mann who's written it, isn't it?
George Mann has written it, who we worked with before on Legacy. So it made a lot of sense for him to write the first story because he really knew what he was getting himself into. Yeah,
we had to put it together, like we were saying earlier. 5 writers quite quickly to do these stories, and I wasn't comfortable finding 5 people I'd never worked with before. I knew that for the first story, I should hedge my bets a bit and find somebody who understood what we were trying to do. And luckily, George said yes as soon as we talked to him, and he started right away. And he just understood what we were trying to do, because even the first time we worked together, he sent design notes over with the script. He understands what we're trying to do perfectly, and he was a perfect writer to come and help us.
And he writes Missy really well. Jesus.
And he's so funny. I didn't even realize how funny he writes until we got the scripts through. Yeah, he's really wonderful.
When you'll hear her talking about the IKEA chic of the 12th Doctor's TARDIS, which isn't exactly to her taste. But I should add though, not all of these are known enemies within the Doctor universe. We've actually created quite a bit of new stuff.
Yeah, that was the other thing about
the
first
5 stories. 3 of them are completely original in terms of the enemies that you deal with.
And the other 2, we do some weird stuff, like the Freya storyline to make it a bit different.
There's a lot of original stuff. New allies that have never been seen before that we've created for the Doctor universe, and it's been a real treat and a privilege being able to bear that kind of responsibility.
Okay, it says here that you've got 5 episodes coming out in this year. Is that right?
It'll actually be
more like 6.
More like 6, maybe more. But we have 5 right now. We're all in production, and
right, and they're all coming out in 2018.
Oh yeah. These
Right. Okay.
So do you want to talk about how they're coming out?
Yeah, so we're working towards getting the first 3 out by the end of May. So we're only a couple months away from the launch.
Okay. Right.
And then we'll continue to roll out stories after that, hopefully every couple months. The 4th story is well along in development. The 5th story is in development. The 6th story is being written. And the 7th story, we hope, will end up being a one to tie into the new Doctor. But, our feeling on that was, it takes time to really learn learn the part of the new Doctor and learn what their quirks are and their expressions and how they speak with their companions and things. So we want to give it some time. We don't think it's right to rush into that as much as people would love us to.
Yeah. Wow.
So we got.
So any questions?
Kind of edged out all your questions there. We get so excited talking about.
Yeah,
this.
no, that's fine. I mean, really, it was the first question is when can I play it, which you've kind of answered already. Yeah. I did wonder whether you were going to be waiting until September to launch it, and that's why I was curious as to how you're going to get 5 episodes in 2018. But that makes more sense now. Yeah,
it's a nice time for us to get stuff out because people are itching for more Doctor Who content.
Yeah,
and we will be also launching more post that launch, and we may look at doing like a collection Christmas time, things like that. But the idea and that for us and for everyone involved in it is that this should be a new platform. And so hopefully, not unlike we've supported Legacy now for nearly 5 years, we'd like to keep making these, so there's so many writers and artists who've been reaching out to us saying, hey, what's next?
There's a lot of tough stories to be told. And there are interesting ways to tell as well on mobile and in gameplay that you just can't do with writing and comic books and things like that.
Yeah. We also have, on the audio side, Stafford Baller is our audio director who won awards for Monument Valley. He's been doing audio for 20 years. He's actually taking this. He's taking all the, the character dialogue that we have, but on top of that, it's the sound effects and the music that he's orchestrating and putting that all together. It really just sounds like a proper audio production in a way that I don't even think that we knew we were going for until we got into this. It's just hard to cut corners, you get into it and you see
just want to do the best
how lovely everything is, and we just keep amping that up. We're like, well, hell, this is so beautiful and the story is so interesting. What else can we throw at this? And then, I don't want to not mention our team in Taiwan. So we're still working with Seed. They continue to be an extension of our team and us an extension of theirs on this. Their focus this time around is on level design because Coenda and the rest of the team there just did a tremendous job as he came in, like sort of halfway through Legacy, really, really coming up with some new ideas because he's so close to the code and knows what it's capable of. So when we got started on this, whereas originally we thought it would feel a bit like Legacy, he ripped it apart and said, how do we start from scratch and tie gameplay into story in a meaningful way? So, there's the core gem set like there is in Legacy, but on top of that, each of the stories may have upwards of 100 different other types of gems.
Well, we should probably explain that one. So it's a sort of traditional gem game, but near the beginning of the story, the Doctor's in a cafe in France that's collapsing, and he's a gem on the board. And as you remove gems from the board, rocks collapse as the cafe collapses around you, and if the Doctor gets hit, he gets killed. So we have these, environmental things that happen to the board reflecting story.
Right.
It feels almost like and this was said to me at GDC last week. It feels like a strategy game. There's a level that we've shown, which is Freya on the planet, and she's created, as we mentioned, this Freya bot army. So when the Daleks come, she ends up having her Freya bots protect her. And so now imagine on the board, you've got Daleks, and every turn, that Daleks can move 2 spaces, and every turn the Freya bots can move 1 space, and you can keep summoning more reinforcements. You lose the level if all your Freya bots get taken out. You win if you take out the Daleks. And it starts to feel very chess-like. And so each of the levels we're thinking about this way. How do we really make it feel like you're in the middle of the action as opposed to being a viewer of the action?
So is that a completely new approach to gem games then?
I don't think anyone has attempted to do this before, and certainly I had press say that to me last week that it really feels fresh. If you as soon as it came up on the screen, I saw the sort of question mark on people's faces. Oh, it's a gem game. It's a gem game again, and it's like, yeah, but wait, hang on. Let me get into this and show you why. That would be like saying every Dungeons and Dragons game is really just rolling dice. We may as well.
I think it's how we describe the gameplay now. We have. When we're trying to think of future stories, we're like, well, we have a level where Bill is stealth we have a level where Bill is in a Dalek factory trying to sneak away across the factory, and she's being chased by Daleks. But she can create a hologram of the Doctor, which they run after to distract them while she escapes. And that's not typical gem game behavior,
No.
But we've created this cool hybrid thing where we can tie in strong storyline to cool new gameplay, and it's actually all tied into a gem game. So it's hard to explain, but really easy to understand when you play it. The first level of the game is, match 3 blue gems together, and then it just slowly ramps up from there, so anyone can follow, how this game is constructed and the goals of these levels.
That's really interesting. No, I really want to try this now. There's something I wanted to know is, obviously, last time you were on mobile only, and you're going to launch on PC and then on mobile. What have you found any differences in launching on the App Store and Play to Steam?
No, it's really, as long as you build it with this in mind, you need to know. Luckily, this is all 2D art, right? We have beautiful comic book art, so that displaying that on a monitor for a PC is almost identical to displaying on a tablet. So, we were just careful with our middleware we chose and all the tech choice at the beginning. So the gameplay is exactly the same. Everything but, the resolution of the payment system on the back end is the same between all the platforms. So these days, it's quite easy to do cross-platform stuff if you plan for it.
And will it run on Mac and Linux as well?
Hmm?
Does it run on Mac and Linux as well as Windows?
Yeah, it'll run on Mac, not on Linux, but we are on Mac.
Okay.
No plans yet on Linux.
Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you there. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that on the art side, we're being really careful to keep things at the highest resolution possible and then scale down for mobile. It's one of the reasons we're so excited about PC is that we know we can really blow stuff out and do the most vivid version of everything for PC monitors.
I wondered as well. Obviously, it's exciting to have it on PC, but do you expect any complaints? Because with mobile, it's kind of, or certainly with tablets, they're kind of more suited to the comic book, and with this whole comic book element to it. And obviously, you can't keep everyone happy, can you? But
when we say comic booky, you'll have to see it before you. Okay. It just means our cutscenes are just really heavily comic book influenced, but you wouldn't look at them and think that's a traditional comic book.
Yeah.
We've got rid of things like frames, to define like the individual comic book segments. It's different. It's very much our interpretation of what a moving comic book is, I guess.
Yeah, so, and we absolutely will be supporting mobile and supporting especially like the high resolution iOS Retina display.
Oh yeah, some of the art we get, some of the artists draw. They don't do it digitally. They draw on ink.
Our second story, which we're about to announce, is the artist on that is a traditional artist. So he draws everything with ink and sponge and pencil, and it's all so laborious. But
we can display it at like 4K on some tablets. This stuff is beautiful on PC screens. It's really a shame.
300 meg images.
It's really a shame for some of this stuff to be, taken down to phone size. It's beautiful seeing on a massive screen. It really is.
Okay. So you're launching in May.
Yes, very end of May.
End of May. Okay. So could it tumble into June, or is May end of May definite?
We're aiming end of May. Who knows?
It's when the game's done.
It's when the game's done. But we're aiming for end of May, and everything's on track so far. But you never know. It's one of those things. We don't have that many hard and fast timelines. Luckily, because we make that timelines ourselves. So we'll put it out when it's right.
Okay, and it's free initially.
Yeah. So you download. Like the first, how many levels of the first story? I don't know, the first couple hours of the
12 gameplay levels, but it's a good couple hours of gameplay.
Yeah, and then, a chunk of the other stories will be free as well. So you get loads free. You'll understand the value proposition absolutely by the time we even mention money to the user. You don't see any dollar sign for the first couple of hours.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So just recap. Out to the end of May. It's initially free with bits that you can buy later on. You've got art from Mike Collins, who's best known for Doctor Who magazine comic strip. You've got George Mann, although he's worked on Doctor Who Legacy, he's probably best known for Engines of War at the moment. You've got the voices of Michelle Gomez and Ingrid Oliver from the TV show, and also Bella Ramsey, who Game of Thrones fans will know as Little Lyanna Mormont, although there's nothing little about her character. Excellent. Well, this is exciting stuff. Excellent. Yeah, great. Well, I can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have to pop on again once the game is out.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Talk about the other stories.
Yeah.
That'll be great. And maybe we can get one of the writers on as well.
Yeah. George is always up for that sort of thing,
Good.
I'm not calling George a ham or anything, but George is always up for
We can
that
talk
sort of
about the
thing.
creation of a new Dalek enemy.
Yeah. And George is actually working on our 6th story for us, so we'll be getting close to announcing that.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Susan and Lee Cummings of Doctor Who Infinity, which will be along later this year. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us in.
This is a Beyond Castorber's podcast, available on iTunes, Audio Boom, Stitcher.com, Player FM, and BeyondCastorber's.com.